Hey everybody, Shara here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Tera, going for the Shara Boss achievement. This one is to beat the 8 named bosses and the 7 big monsters in Southern Shara. We're going to start out with the named bosses first, starting up here in Asenia at the Blessing Basin. You want to make sure you go to the western side and make sure you head up and down the upper part of the path right here. You should notice these statues along the way, and you want to make sure you look for one that has a bluish tint to it. If you find one, it should be the first boss in the form of Andras. Every single boss on this continent is going to have a 4-hour spawn time, so if the boss isn't here, make sure you come back later, or you can try switching channels, servers, or turning off crossplay. Just like our previous run, I am going to suggest that you do this in the post-game after you hit max level of 65 and have some pretty decent gear for this. Next up, boss number 2 is going to be over here in Blightwood. This one is going to only appear in one location, which is going to be the dead center in this swamp. It's going to be this guy in the form of Terkasia. So make sure you look for him, and then make sure you take him out, and that's going to be 2 out of the way. Already a quarter of the way done with all of the named bosses. So once we take care of this one, we're going to move on to the next one, which is going to be over at Westonia. So head back to the city and make the long journey to the snowy area. This one is going to be up north at the Tempest Reach. It's also going to only have one spawn location, which is going to be the bottom part of this triangle. So head on over here, and you want to make sure you look for this particular enemy. He's usually going to be surrounded by some minions, so make sure you try your best to take care of them. But this boss is going to be Kestol. He's going to be this Naga that's holding 2 axes. So make sure you take him out, and then we can move on to the southern part of the snowy area. All the way down here at Bleak Rock, you want to make sure you go to the Frost Reach. It can appear in 2 locations around the Screaming Snowfield, either in the middle of the main path or up to the upper left by the cabin. This one is going to be one of those frost giant enemies. It's going to be this one. So they're going to be similar looking ones. You want to make sure you look for the one with the giant shoulder pads. And then once you find it, make sure you take this one out. Next one up is going to be over here in Valparada. We're going to go to the quarantine zone, and then we're going to head to Arachnen. This one's going to be an indoors one, so we're going to have to look for the entrance of the cave that takes us in to Arachnen. So it's going to look a little something like this at the bottom of this valley. Make sure you head into the cave. Once you are here, you want to make sure you hang a left, and then we're going to head over to the main chamber. So you can use your mini-map in case you get lost, but you're going to cut through this little settlement right here, and then you're going to take this tunnel, and then the main chamber of the cave is going to be right here. Make sure you head straight across. Your goal is to head to that indicator on your mini-map that takes you up to the higher level, so hang a left up this ramp, wrap around here, and then just make sure you stay on this bowl of the cave. Don't go into any of the other smaller tunnels. And then your goal is to look for this ramp that should take you higher up. So make sure you staircase up here and then wrap around this. And then eventually you should find the entrance that takes you to the higher level of the cave. So once your minimap changes to the upper floor, make sure you wrap around the bowl until you get down here. Make sure you hang a turn into this part, and the boss is going to be all the way right here in this back chamber. So you're going to look for this. It's going to be the westmost side of the cave, and it's going to be right on here. It's the only enemy that's not a giant spider. It looks like this thing. So this is going to be Dulagoras. Make sure you gun him down, and that's going to take care of another boss. As for the rest of the achievement, they are all going to be done in Vale, so we're going to work our way over here. We're going to start out in Worm Gorge and look for Huzrat the Tyrant. This one's going to be up here in the Death Gorge area. So make your way up here. It's going to be this settlement full of enemies. You're going to notice the one and only dragon up here, and if you spot him, make sure you take him out. And then we're going to be done with this particular boss. He's a pretty high level, but again, if you are max level and have good gear, you should be able to take him out in about a few handfuls of shots. So just make sure you keep peppering him. And then once you take him out, we are going to be on to the second to last named boss. Also in Vale, but over here in Tor Exol. This one can appear in a multitude of areas, all in the northern half, so make sure you do look around for it. It's going to be Kelthuzad Vulcan. It's going to be this rhinoceros-looking enemy, so make sure you keep an eye out for him. And then once you find him, we're going to take him out. Again, he's going to be pretty on the bulky side since he is going to be a level 60, so try your best to whittle him down, but he's nothing too impossible, and you could still beat him solo, thankfully. Once you defeat him, that's going to bring us to the final named boss in the form of Nyxarras. Now, Nyxarras is going to be a level 68 boss, so you are probably going to need help for this one. It can be found in Sienna Canyon all around the Field of Fire, so make sure you check all of its spawn points. It's going to be another dragon type of enemy. Again, it's going to be another level 68, so you definitely want help for this, as it is going to have a ton of health. So doing this fight with another person or in a group with other people is not going to make it take a few hours. So make sure you recruit some people to help you out, and then hopefully you can take it out. And then once you finally do, that should take care of all of the named bosses. And then we can move on to the second half of the achievement, which are going to be the big monsters. Now, thankfully, the big monsters aren't going to have any timers based on them. They're just going to be regular enemies. And we're going to stay here in Sienna Canyon, and we're going to take care of the first one, also located at the Field of Fire. This one is going to be the Gluttonous Fangspawn. They can appear all over the place in the little craters under the various machines in the area. They're going to be this Cyclops-looking enemy, and thankfully, because these are all normal enemies, you should be able to take them out pretty quickly. All of them are going to be in their 50s, but you shouldn't have any trouble with them because they aren't going to be bosses or anything. Staying in Sienna Canyon, we're going to head over here to the Barbtail Cully. So once you head into this land, you're going to find another type of dragon. This one is going to take the form of the Trihorn Dracocloth. So thankfully, these ones are going to be way easier than the boss dragons. And then once you take one of these out, we should be all wrapped up with the Sienna Canyon. So we are going to move on over here back to Worm Gorge, and we're going to look all the way up here back at the Death Gorge where we fought that first boss. This type of enemy is going to be found right outside of the settlement, so on either path, either going up to the mountain, and then it's going to be another type of dragon in the form of the Bloodtalon Dracocloth. So make sure you take this one out. It's going to be way easier than the previous dragons, as mentioned before. And then once we take care of this, we're going to continue our journey in this area. You want to make sure you take the left path down. So if you took the right path going up, you should take the left path going down. On your way down the western side of the Worm Gorge, you're going to go through this area called the Xayal-Tarazad Shrine, and you're going to find these types of enemies along the way in the form of the Wastewalkers. And you're going to have the Desert Stalker, which is going to be the smaller version of it, but you want to look for the big one, which is going to be the Vulcan Wastewalker. Once you find one of these, make sure you take this out, and then we're going to make our grand escape back down the area, and then we're going to head back to Tor Exol. So, wrapping up the achievement with the last three, this first one can be found at the northern part of the Outlaw's Nest. It can also be predominantly found in the upper center area. It's going to be this enemy in the form of the Vale Hunter Arachnen. So it's going to be the giant crab spider thing. So they should be all over the place. Very common enemy. Take it out, and then we can move on. Be a little careful fighting it. It does tend to like to burrow, so if it disappears, that means you haven't killed it yet. Make sure you wait for it to pop back up, and make sure you finish it off. Then up here, this is going to be the eastern side of Tor Exol. You're going to have the Rain Tree Oasis. All around the oasis, you're going to have this very colorful type of flower, but if you remember from the previous part, these are actually going to be lizards, so make sure you try to attack it, and then it should pop up, and then you can finish it off once it surfaces, and that should take care of the Sandlurker Lizard. Taking care of one of these is going to leave us with one last big monster that we need to deal with. This one is going to be located in Tor Exol as well, in the southernmost part called Blood Valley. It's going to be the Magmar Teralith, and which one of these? Want to make sure you head inside. Go past the settlement, you should see these rock enemies right here. Make sure you go up to one, it should spring to life, and then make sure you finish it off, and then make sure you take it out of its life, and then that should take care of every single big monster. And once you have taken care of all 8 of the named bosses and all 7 of the big monsters, you should be good for the achievement. So once you have 15 of them off your checklist, your achievement should unlock. There it is, 200 gamer score for this one, and that's all there is to it.